Picture this. You're in your local hometown government building grabbing some documents so you can take out a loan. A pretty routine visit, and you wait as the worker pulls up your documents. It's a small village, so you see this guy all the time as one of your acquaintances. He click-clacks on his computer, looking increasingly confused, and he looks up at you. Who are you? You tell him your name again. No, you're not. He died last year. I don't know who you are. You laugh, but the worker doesn't laugh back. How could I be dead? I'm here in front of you. What are you talking about? Dude, we've met! He spins around the computer, and directly next to your name, the word deceased. Now, I know I framed this as a supernatural ghost story, with the creepy music and all, but there's actually a really natural explanation for this. Meet the currently living Lal Bihari. The situation I just described is the exact one he found himself in. Except they were speaking Hindi, and it was in 1975, so the dude might not have been click-clacking on any computer, but I had to make some adjustments to make it more modern, more relatable. Lay off me a bit here. So, why was he declared dead if he's alive? Mr. Bihari lives in Azamgarh, a place in Uttar Pradesh, India. Azamgarh is an incredibly overcrowded region, so resources are scarce, especially land. And that scarcity of land is exactly what brought him into this situation. Lal Bihari was the owner of a small parcel of land, and when I say small, I mean roughly 0.2 acres small, about 15% of a football field. American football, that is. I don't know how big the fields are for those Europeans, and I don't care. The point is that no one's building a mega mansion on this parcel of land, more like a slightly larger than average 7-Eleven. But this amount of land in an area like Azamgarh is incredibly valuable. Valuable enough to kill for. And then again, murder is actually a pretty serious crime, and so people generally avoid it. Also, I don't think I'd feel qualified enough to tackle a real-life murder case on this channel. But Lal's cousins really wanted this land, but not quite enough to murder him for it. So, they came up with another, slightly more moral plan. If they could get Lal declared legally dead, they would automatically inherit the land he had. None of them worked in the government, so they couldn't exactly just go into work one day and write it into the books, but fortunately, in this area, it's actually laughably easy to bribe a government official. As in, probably less than you have in your wallet at this very moment. We're talking about $25 adjusted for inflation. With this number, Jeff Bezos could theoretically have every single person in India declared legally dead. 4.5 times over. And then he could give every person who works for Amazon a $52,500 bonus. But now, obviously, we're getting into fantasy territory. So they bribed a low-level government official, and that was it. Lal Bihari was now dead. Now, of course, overturning this should be fairly easy, right? I mean, how hard could it be to prove that you're not dead? Every single word you say is rock-solid evidence. Dead people can't talk. Dead people can't request a court hearing. Come on, use your fucking brain. Guess how many years it took for Bihari to overturn his declaration of death? And I'll give you a second. If you said a year, wrong. If you said 1.5, still wrong. If you said 5, congratulations on being an optimist, but take that number and shove it up your ass because it's 19 years. Now, he could have been declared dead during Brett Favre's first starting season and watched him retire before he overturned it. What the fuck is wrong with them? Now, it's possible that you're thinking, all right, that is a long time, but he must have been like slacking off or something. All 19 years, this man was trying his best to get attention from the media and from the law. He had a billion publicity stunts. He would fast in protest areas, interrupt public assemblies, hold a mock funeral for himself. He also added the Hindi word for dead man onto his name, which implies that you can change the name of dead people, which is pretty scary. I don't want to die, and for my friend to think it'd be funny to change my name to Dum Dum McFartface and have that on my tombstone forever. But that's besides the point. Lal realized that traditional protesting methods just wouldn't work, because this was anything but a traditional issue. He could talk to the government one-on-one as many times as he wanted, but they weren't going to listen. In order to give him the justice he deserved, they would have to admit they made a mistake. which this government just refused to do. But Lal would do anything but give up, and in the face of this injustice, he did probably the smartest thing so far. He had to get a little gimmicky, a little wacky with it, and he had his wife apply for widow's pension, which is some financial reward the government offers to the wives of deceased breadwinners. And if the government wanted to keep saying Lal is dead, they would have to supply them with a substantial amount of free money. But if they wanted to keep their money, they would have to agree that Lal is alive and undo their mistake. Lal had won. Doing anything else would be completely nonsensical. Now, you saw that there's more time left in the video, though. Unfortunately, the government is completely nonsensical, so they decided to neither acknowledge that he was alive nor give his wife any money. It's fucked up. They didn't even have a tricky, funny way to get out of it. They're complete lazy assholes. My favorite method he tried is when he gently kidnapped his little cousin Baburam, hoping that Baburam's dad, who now owned his land, would file a police complaint. Because to arrest him, the police would have to admit that Lal is alive. It's a pretty bold and pretty clever plan. Now, how did Baburam's dad respond, you ask? Did he sneak in and kidnap his kid back? Did he hire his own private militia? No. Baburam's dad did nothing. He just let his son be kidnapped because he knew Lal was a good dude and wouldn't do anything. So Lal just kind of ended up stuck with babysitting Baburam for a while. He didn't know what to do with him, so he just kind of picked him up from school and took him to a movie every day. In one attempt to try and get his family to react, he came up with the idea to soak his cousin's shirt in goat blood and send it to his uncle to make him think that he was in actual danger, which of course he was not. His butcher refused to give him the goat blood he needed for the plan, and eventually a journalist told him, "Lal, come on, man, I'll write an article about you, whatever you want, but don't go around like kidnapping your cousins. They're going to arrest your ass." So, nothing came from that plan other than Baburam got a new shirt and he saw a bunch of movies. And more recently, Bihari asked the government to provide all the dead people with one AK-47 to protect themselves against their enemies, as they couldn't get one by themselves due to being, legally dead. Obviously, they rejected this request and fined him 10,000 rupees for wasting their time. And that one I can actually see where the government's coming from. But eventually, of course, the government did acknowledge his life. After 19 long years, he had his life and his land returned to him. And he actually made up with his family. Now he has his cousins working on his land. And from every interview I've read, they all seem to be very aware of the humor in the situation, because it is comical when you've escaped that situation, the way that a person can be alive and the government just refuses to notice for 19 years. But for people who are still suffering in that situation, it's not as funny. Eventually, Lal created the Uttar Pradesh Association of Dead People to unite all the people with the exact problem he was facing. And surprisingly, this issue was a lot more common than he had initially thought. A seemingly infinite amount of people would come from all over to seek help with their own efforts to prove their own life, and a lot of these people just ended up giving up. And people with this issue are often ostracized and incessantly mocked, even driving some to insanity or suicide. But Lal Bihari, to this day, fights for these folk. You'd think that the sheer amount of publicity for him and the fact that he won his case would mean big things for the rest of the people in this situation. I mean, he's had movies made and books written about him. But this is still a massive problem in this area of India, and believe it or not, in other places in the world as well. He estimates that 50,000 people face this exact problem in India. And whether that's true, I have no idea, but it's still a real problem that their government refuses to truly acknowledge. But what can I do? I'm just a niche internet micro-influencer. A niche internet micro-influencer who didn't upload for half a year. Man alive, time flies. Ignore my channel banner. It is a dead lie. Sorry, folks. Thanks to everyone who's still sticking with me. Despite that, I'm gonna upload as often as I can with everything else going on in my life. I'm in college. I have other stuff. I don't have my computer with me at college. There are a few roadblocks, but I'm gonna try my darndest. So, if you feel so inclined, like, comment, subscribe, and do something that makes you happy today. I hope I see you again soon, and Makan!